really didn't think everyone was going to come tonight. I'm overwhelmed. Thank you. Thank you, James. Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. It means so much to me. You have no idea. I grew up in front of so many of you, and I couldn't be prouder to stand in front of you here tonight to talk about my campaign for state senate. This community, everyone here tonight, this always has been and always will be my home. So really, I mean that, thank you so much. My parents raised me and my siblings to take a lot of pride in our community. And that's something I've tried to live on a daily basis. Whether it's becoming an Eagle Scout at our Troop 715, helping out at a church function like the dance or a festival, or getting involved in the neighborhood. I used to work for Councilman Gentili, helping neighborhood residents solve everyday community problems, like fixing potholes on the street, helping senior citizens apply for home heating assistance, or even resolving landlord-tenant disputes. Community is a word that has a lot of meaning to me, and I have to thank my parents for instilling that value in me. So thank you, Mom and Dad, for all of that. Many of you know I spent some time in Washington, D.C. I went to law school down there, and I worked for Senator Menendez on a number of issues like veterans benefits, child support enforcement, and most importantly to me was a terrorism investigation that I co-conducted into the roots of the Lockerbie bomber a few years ago. Today I work at a great nonprofit called Citizens Committee for New York City, and we give small grants to community groups, volunteer community groups, for projects that will improve the neighborhood. And I love all the time that I spend both in Washington and at the job that I hold right now. But about politics. It doesn't take much to realize that people today are very, very frustrated with the way government is working, or not working, actually. People want something different, new voices and new leaders to help make things better. And things do need to get better, especially right here in New York. A few years ago, the New York State Legislature was rated the most dysfunctional state legislature in the country. That's pretty awful. It's pretty embarrassing. And even now with Governor Cuomo in office, things have started to get a little bit better, but we still have such a long way to go before our state gets back on track. Last month, the poll came out so that 26% of New Yorkers approve of the way the legislature is working. Now that's a higher number than Congress gets, but that's still pretty bad. 64% of New Yorkers are very dissatisfied with the direction that our state is going in. The problems that we have in Albany have very real consequences for us down here. Every year, we lose out on billions of dollars in funding that gets funneled to other areas of the state. Perfect example, take our schools. We have some great schools, both here in the community and across the city. I probably wouldn't be standing here tonight if it weren't for the education I had, both at DGK, our Greek school, and at Fort Hamilton. But we also know that so many of our schools have been lagging far behind their counterparts in other parts of the state. Nearly half New York City public school students are in classrooms that are overcrowded. In fact, some of the most overcrowded schools in the entire city are right here in this community, and in Dyker Heights, and in Bensonhurst. 25% of our high school graduates are ready for college. 25%. That means 75% of our graduates aren't ready to go into the world that's constantly changing, and they're not going to be able to compete in the future. Why is that? After a decade of confusing school reforms, our students are performing only marginally better on their performance exams. It shouldn't be this way. For so many years, Albany has been disproportionately spending less of our money on our schools. Instead, our state tax dollars are going to support schools out in Long Island and Westchester and other parts of upstate. A few years ago, a group of parents sued Albany and said, "We deserve our fair share of the funding." And the judge said, "You're right. Albany owes you $15.5 billion just so your schools could catch up to the rest of the state." $15.5 billion. That's a lot of money. So Albany said, "Fine, we'll give you $5.5 billion." We're still waiting for that money. Now, things are tough right now with the economy, and we can understand if Albany can't pay us what they owe. That's fine. But just last year, in the budget that was passed, the legislature restored about $400 million in education cuts. What percentage of that money do you think came back to our schools? 23%. Albany still thinks that students in Westchester and Long Island and other parts of the state are more important than our students here. And that shouldn't be allowed. Take another example, our buses and our subways and trains. Now, I know it's not a surprise to anyone, we don't have the perfect public transportation system. The trains we have here, the R, the N, the D, are all scheduled to come less frequently than any other lines in the system. We've already lost the 3rd Avenue bus a few years ago, and every year we play this guessing game with Albany whether or not we'll have express bus service from our communities. And yet still, every year our fares go up over and over and over again. The MTA spends significantly less on New York City subway and bus riders than they do on riders who use Metro North and Long Island Railroad. Metro North and Long Island Railroad make up 6% of the MTA's ridership, but it accounts for 20% of the MTA's budget. New York City subways and bus riders are 87% of the ridership, but the MTA spends only about 65% of their budget on us. So think about it like this. I'm not a businessman, but I know we have a lot of business people in here today. If you own a business, do you spend 20% of your budget on just 6% of your clients? No, right? Unless those clients were really, really important. So my question that I'm asking tonight, and we'll be asking the next year, is why are commuters from Long Island and upstate and elsewhere in the state more important than we are? There's only one state senator in Brooklyn, one Republican state senator in Brooklyn, who keeps allowing Albany to shortchange us year after year after year. And I think, the fact that I'm running for office, you can guess who that state senator is. Albany needs new leaders and new voices to find solutions to problems that have been lingering for 10, 20, 30, even 40 years. We need new voices in our community that won't just accept things as they are, but will work day after day after day to make things better than they could be. We need new voices in our community that won't vote to protect other interests at our own expense, but instead will fight to make sure that we count just as much as people who live in Nassau, Suffolk, or Westchester. And we need new voices in our community who don't accept politics as usual, but believe in politics as they should be. We've asked you to come here tonight, and I'm so thankful you're all joining us, because I want a chance to be that new voice. And I need your help to do it. You're being here tonight, you're supporting this campaign with financial contributions, and I thank you so very much for that. But this campaign needs more. We need you to join with us and work with us to make a better New York. Volunteer your time, host a house party with your neighbors, just join our email list. Anything you can do will go a long way to helping us win next November. I know fixing Albany isn't going to be easy. I'm not that naive. But it doesn't mean that we shouldn't be fighting to make things better. And with your support both tonight and over the next 12 months, I know that this is a fight that we can win. So thank you very much, everyone. I really appreciate you being here. It means a lot to me.